Do you remember the first time you heard the blues and the first time that it really spoke to you?
I guess so. I guess I kind of grew up with that. Actually, I was born on a farm, and we didn't have radios and stuff like that. My parents were sharecroppers, and I did not hear the blues. And finally, my dad, and very religious, they was singing a lot of spiritual stuff. And as I get in my teens, I began, one guy was a distant relative, so my grandmother said. He had a guitar, and we would see him every Christmas. So finally, around 15 years old, my dad got a radio, and I started listening to John Lee Hooker's Boogie Chill and Lightning Hopkins and Arthur Crudup, which I met there in Australia, strangely enough. I had never met him before. My first time in Australia, I ran into him, and what a thrill.
Wow.
And from then on, I just loved it, because at that point in time, you couldn't make a decent living out of playing. I didn't see that. It was just played because the love of blues. You played it, and I played up until a few years ago, almost just for the love of it. And right now, when I go to the stage, I don't think about nothing but the blues and the music I love so well. And in the 60s, it got to the point where if you was good enough, you could make a decent living out of it. But I was working days and playing my guitar at night sometime. I don't know how I made it, because I worked till 5 and 6 in the evening, went to the clubs and played till 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, went right back to work.
In terms of getting your hands on actual records of some of these blues sounds that you were hearing on the radio, how accessible was that music to you in growing up?
Well, I couldn't get it, and finally they have this radio program coming out of Tennessee called Randy Record Shop, and all. It was big. You could hear it throughout this country. And then my dad finally got an old phonograph, and I would order the old 7, 8 records. That's all I didn't have any money. When I was scrap up enough to pay, I think it was 70-some cents for 78, and you could order it, and they would package it to you. And all my friends used to play sandlot baseball and what other little games we were playing. They'd had to miss me when that radio program came on, because I had to see what was coming out new. Lightning Hopkins, T-Bone Walker, John Lee Hooker, and people like that. So I would wander off to myself and say, my God, I didn't think I would be talking to you about it now. I just loved it that so well. I just want to do it.
Remember your first guitar?
Yes, I do. My dad he was sawing logs with a crosscut saw, as Albert King sang about, and this same guy would come in Christmas, had one with 2 strings on it, and he gave him a couple of bucks for it, and I know he couldn't afford it. I found that out later in life, but that's where I started banging, and I would break the strings and splashing with my mother's hairpins and stuff like that, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And some people look at me now and say, maybe that's why you learn how to play a little speed, because you had to skip the strings, keep them from sticking your fingers while I would time it.
Leaving for Chicago must have been a great turning point in your life. Who were some of the first musical contacts you came in touch with there?
Well, I didn't come here to be a musician. I was told I could get a chance to watch Howlin, Wolf, Muddy Water, and Little Walter, which is my idols, Sonny Boy Williamson and people like that. And I got here and got stranded, and finally a stranger led me to this famous club at that time called 708 Club on 47th Street, the east side of Chicago, and that was Otis Rush. And he talked me into playing. I had never had a drink, and he gave me a glass of wine because I was 3 days without food, hungry. I said, anything in my stomach make me feel better, and I was too shy to sing, and I wound up singing, and I got high. And someone called Muddy Waters, and when I got ready to leave, I was telling people I was hungry, and they said, you can't be hungry the way you can play and sing. And Muddy kind of slapped me upside the head and took me in as one of his students, I guess.
Tell us about the years at Chess Records. It must have been a magical feeling playing with the likes of Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf. Any specific things that those guys taught you that you still carry with you today?
Yes, it is. That when you... they never changed. Yeah, a lot of entertainers today change, and seems like they something special or other words, something special mean better than the next person, and so on. And they wasn't like that. They was regular people, and I'm still like that. You know, I cut my grass, I move my snow if it's necessary. I drive my car, and I have fans come up now and say, "What are you doing driving? What are you doing washing your car?" and things like that. And I say, "Hey, man, I just know how to play guitar. You know, I can't change that. You know." So they taught me all that, including B.B. King. You know, they didn't change. You know, it was just, you know, you just was a guitar player and a singer and something to try and make people happy, and which I still try to do if I come there, anywhere in the world. I just want to play well enough to make people smile, and I can look out there in their faces and see that they have enjoyed that few moments I have to play, and I learn all of that from them.
Now, you received a lot of support from those blues legends during that time in getting your career off the ground. Were Chess Records themselves just as supportive?
Not me as much as they was them. You know, they are the guys who made Chess Records, and I was just a little student in there. I remember once Leonard told Muddy Waters he wanted to cut an acoustic album, and he wanted him to go to Mississippi and find someone who could play it, and Muddy said, "Set the session up for tomorrow." And I got him, and I walked in there, and they started cursing me out and told me, "I told you to get somebody old who could play it." I think I was 21 or 2, and I started playing the stuff, and they just sit there for an hour with their mouth wide open, and they finally asked me, "How did you learn that?" I said, "Well, you know, you're looking at the people who taught me everything I know, which was Wolf, Muddy, Sonny Boy Williams, and all those guitar players, Robert Jr. Lockwood, and all the guitar players was around the studio then, which they had some great ones. Wayne Bennett, Matt Murphy, all those guys was here in town. Matter of fact, I met everybody who I really know except the British guys right here in Chicago.
Yeah, some great names that you mentioned. Do you recall having a real appetite to learn in those days?
Yeah, well, you know, I had dedicated my life to that guitar, but I didn't ever think I would get paid for playing it. You know, as I said earlier, could relax and play and have a decent place to stay and be comfortable with it. I just wanted to watch those guys play and go to work in the daytime. And Chicago at that point in time, they had so many clubs. It was every night looked like a weekend for me, you know. So I would come home from work and say, I got to go find another club, because they had a lot of more great musicians here. Didn't make a name. Chess didn't record them. They had young people here could play Muddy Waters, Little Walter, and everybody else. And all these little clubs was full of people. A lot of people were working. We had steel mills, stockyards, and around the clock. And I just never did hardly go to sleep. Matter of fact, I lost contact of which was a weekend. I asked the guy one Wednesday night, I said, I need to go to church. My mom going to kill me. I said, I'm going home and go to church. He said, boy, today Wednesday, church is Sunday. That's just how many people was in clubs and on the streets.
Playing on those great chess sessions that you did you have a feeling that you were a part of blues history there, or did that not sink in till later years?
No, sir. I didn't have. I couldn't even think of history sitting in the studio with Muddy Waters, Howlin, Wolf, Sonny Boy, and Little Walter and them around me like that, you know, and they had Chuck Berry and a lot of more great people. That never crossed my mind. Actually, right now, when people tell me that, I have to stop and slap myself and say, are you really a part of history, or are you just a student learned where the history come from? And that's where I look at myself now. You know, I guess they give you that, but I think all the awards, the Grammys and things I've won over the last few years, I think they should have went to the Little Walt, to the Jimmy Reed and people like that.
When did the tide turn for you? When did Chess start to see you as an artist in your own right and not just there to back up others?
Just before he died and the record company collapsed, he came to me, because I used to go in the studio and turn my amplifier up, and they would tell me, they would run me out of there. And finally, the British guys started making Hendrix and the Cream and the Stones, and I'd never get a chance to get in Leonard Chess' office. And finally, he sent Willie Dixon at me, and I went down and said, Leonard want to see you. I said, well, I guess I'm through recording now. I probably haven't played good enough. And he come in and put on, I think it was a Cream record or maybe a Hendrix record. He says, I want you to sign and we'll give you some money. Say, because this stuff you've been trying to make me understand that could sell is selling millions. And I said, who's that? You know, and he sat down and bent over and told me, I want you to kick me in my butt, because you've been playing this, and these guys done got a hold to it now, and they selling millions and millions of albums playing this stuff that I've been running you out of here with.
When you began recording in your own right, were you absolutely sure you had a particular sound in mind that you were looking to achieve there?
No, I still was copying B.B. King, T-Bone Walker, and all those great guitar players that I learned everything from, you know, and I guess it's just like an athlete. You know, if you're good enough and you go in there, you'll have something of your own. Or, you know, boxers, great boxers, Rocky Marciano, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, and all of them came along to be champions at it, and that's the way life is. And I didn't never think I was creative or nothing, and all of a sudden, I heard comments from Hendrix and Eric and Keith and all these guys, Jeff Beck and all of them, and I'm saying, who is Buddy Guy? You know, and I look around at to slap myself again and say, what was I doing? And I was just having fun playing behind Muddy, and when I go out and play the little small clubs myself, I was copying the late Guitar Slim and people like that. I didn't think I had nothing.
Now, I guess it would be impossible to talk to you and not talk about your partnership with Junior Wells. How did the two of you first team up, and how well did you know of each other's work beforehand?
Well, see, he had records out too when I came here, and I studied them all. And we was more close in age, and actually we didn't hook up at first. He had his band and I had mine, but we had the same manager. And the Rolling Stones asked us in 1970 to come tour Europe with them to be the opening band on their whole European tour. And he had a problem with his band, and I told the manager to just put us together. We could make something happen, but we never could get out of the small clubs at that point, and it just never did go. I had a lot of fun. I miss that guy every day now.
Did the partnership work right from the start?
No, we never had a problem. A lot of people thought we was, because if you had walked in the studio when I was recording with Howlin, Wolf, Muddy Waters, some of them, you would say, I'm getting out of here. They finna fight, because they always call you those dirty names, you know. And so when Junior and I met, I forgot my name was Buddy Guy, because I don't know if you want me to say this on the air, but from Leonard Chess down to Howlin, Wolf, Muddy Water, everybody was a motherfucker. And I wasn't used to that coming from Louisiana.
Yeah.
No.
Lots of musical styles phase in and out over the years, but blues always seems to hang in there. Do you have a theory on what it is about blues that transcends generations?
I haven't the slightest idea, but I must admit to you that blues is not exposed here as no other music. You know, the rap music today got some lyrics in there. They wouldn't even let the great old blues players think about saying that. And they get more exposure than the blues players now. How big a record, if you black, you make it. I don't care how how good a record you make if you black, is not going to go places where someone else can take the same lyrics, play the same song, and put it. Now, what that is, I don't know. We talked about it, and even B.B. King say he don't think it's prejudice, but it's something wrong. You know, I know you heard Eric Clapton from the Cradle.
Mm-hmm.
Album, and he did all the old blues stuff, and that record went to #1, and you never heard it. And now they got radio stations here called Classic, and they would play the blues version by Eric Clapton or some other big rock group, but you'll never hear him put a Muddy Waters or John Lee Hooker tune or Eddie Boyd's tune on there and play that, you know. And I thought I got a classic car. I thought the old stuff was classic, not the young. Yeah.
It's incredibly unfair, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, because even my children didn't know who I was until they got 21 and they walked in the club and they said, Dad, I didn't know you could play like that. And I said, yes, you didn't I wasn't exposed, because if they had saw me on televisions and hear me all on radio, they would have knew about me, you know, because I don't know how we in Australia to come in, but you have to be 21 before you can come listen to blues here, because we was playing it in the clubs.
Are they big fans now?
Yeah, they know who I am now, because my daughter's into the hip-hop rap, and she made me help her do a record, and she's in the process of doing another one now. And she called me in to play, and I said, girl, I don't know nothing but blues. She said, Daddy, this is blues. All I want you to do play. What
for you do you think would be the most notable changes to the blues scene in your time?
What you said would be the noticeable changes?
Yeah, the most noticeable changes that you've seen in the blues scene during your time.
Well, the guitars, the amplifiers, and the electronics and things they got now. When I get in my car in the next hour, I'm going to rehearsal. When I put on Little Walter or Muddy Water or something, they got a sound that's natural. Now you go in the studio, electronics can make you don't even sound like yourself. You make a record and they let you hear the playback, and you say, "Is that me?" So that have changed a lot.
There have been many great guitar players over the years since you began that have emerged, and many have cited you as an influence. Which of them have you felt the strongest connection with?
Oh, it's just a lot of them. Eric is my best friend. He calls. I'm got a record contract now. He invited me to the Albert Hall 2 years in a row, and I got pretty good exposure from that. Jeff Beck, the Rolling Stones, B.B. King. Oh, I could go on and on, man. We're good friends, and they all have put their hand on my shoulder and said, "Don't give up," because a lot of people did give up because you couldn't make it. Some people was working days and you get tired. You work till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, take a shower, and go to a club. I was the only fool who stuck with that, because a lot of people had families and things they was trying to support, and the wives was saying, "You never home, and that guitar ain't feeding me. You got to do something different." And if you's in love with your family, you change. But I told my first wife, she says, "Me or the guitar." I grabbed my guitar and left.
You did experience a frustrating time in your career during the 80s. There was a bit of a downturn there. You didn't record for a while. Did you remain confident that eventually it would all turn around again?
Well, the only thing helped me in that part, because I learned it for the love of music. I never will get rid of my guitar. When I told you I was 3 days without food, I could have pawned the guitar and ate, but I said, if I die, guitar dies, of hunger. I just never thought of that. That don't cross my mind. So during the time I wasn't recording, I guess, I'm very religious. I just said, guess it wasn't for me. And I just kept, if they'd call me, I would play the small clubs and go out and have as much fun then, matter of fact, more fun then than I have now. But I didn't have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there was a great resurgence in your career in the 90s. What did you put that down to?
The help of Eric Clapton, the Stones, and all these great rock groups who kept mentioning my name. The late Stevie Ray Vaughan, he came along and did a couple of songs of mine, and somebody kept asking, "Who's that?" and "Who's that?" and so on. Matter of fact, let's go back a little bit. When the Rolling Stones first started getting famous, they come here to do a television show. And they was asking them, would you come? They say, yes, if you put Muddy Water, Howlin' Wolf on. And they asked, who in the hell was that? And they was embarrassed to say, you mean to tell me you don't know who the Stones is? And we named ourselves after one of his famous records, which is Rolling Stone.
Mm.
Yeah. So we was looked over a lot, It's just, and still is at a certain respect.
I've got to ask you about your club, Legends. It's made quite a name for itself over there, hasn't it?
Oh, yes. I had some people in there, comes from Australia all the time, all over the world, and come see me. It's had so many of them here when we were talking earlier about when I was walking them down the street to see Mud and them, and all that faded away. And myself, Muddy Waters, Little Walter, the Stones, Derek, all of them went to these small clubs before they got discovered. You're not going to come to Melbourne and walk down the street and find that kid can sing or can play. But if you got this club there and you happen to walk in, you say, my God, listen to that. And sooner or later somebody else will hear it, and that's where your chance come from. You don't just walk out in the street and say, I'm going to record. You be talked about, heard, and so on. So I'm trying to keep the traditional Chicago blues capital of the world kind of alive by keeping this club open.
Outside of your own busy touring schedule, do you get much chance to spend time there yourself at the club?
I've been there 11 years next year, and I missed 2 nights when I'm in town from going down there. One was snow, and the other one I had a fever, and I tried to go that night with the fever, but I got cold and hot and cold, and it made me come home.
So if you're in town, you're there?
Every night.
Terrific.
And I don't hide myself. I sit there and autograph and try to talk to people like I'm doing to you as much as I can, even though sometimes I run into some of them intoxicated and they run me home. But I don't ever tell them they run me home. I say, I got to use the bathroom. Then I go out the back door and come back tomorrow night for the same thing.
After all these years, buddy, do you still find yourself learning things about the guitar?
Oh, of course I do. All of these young people that's coming up playing the guitar now, when I'm sitting there at night, we have a band 7 nights a week. I'll go there if they give me a chance and they say, what are you doing? I say, I'm listening and trying to learn. If you ever think you know it all, you might well hang it up then, because these young people are coming up with notes on a guitar I didn't even think was on there. So, and that's where I learned how to play, listening to other people, and I'll keep doing that until I can't hear anymore.
Have you found audiences have changed much over the years?
Oh, yes. Actually, when I was telling you Muddy Waters and I came in, it was 99.9% black. Now it's just about the other way around, especially for blues.
Mm-hmm.
Most white people listen to it now. There are a few black people come every once in a while. The older ones that's still around came up along with me. They know me personally. And it's shocking to see some black people come in. As a matter of fact, I was on a flight one day, and the flight attendant came up in the captain, started asking me for an autograph, and the black attendant said, who is he? You know? So that's the way it is.
And just before we finish up, what would be your major piece of advice to young players on the way up, something you'd make sure you told them?
Well, I would tell them, if you love it, stick with it, because nothing comes easy. If you really love it well enough, you'll be good enough at it to make someone listen to you, and spend as much time with your instrument as you can, because the more time you spend with it, the better you will be.
And advice indeed. And I know my listeners would love me to ask you, any plans for another Australian visit?
Yeah, actually, we were supposed to come into Australia, I think it's May or something like that, and the promoter changed it to later on, which would be our fall, I think is your spring. So they told me a couple of days ago they set it back because something was going on and some of the halls wasn't, theaters or something wasn't available, because it'd been, 6, 7, 8 years since
Yeah,
I've
it
been
would
home.
be. Yeah.
I love coming there, man. You know, great people, and I have a joyful time every time I'm there.
You're doing theatre shows down here, are you?
I'll do whatever they have. You know, I don't have no particular place I like to play. I don't play for places nowhere. I play for people. You know, if they come to see me wherever, I'm going to have as much fun as in an open air theater as I do a small club if I come there and play. I just enjoy trying to make people happy so much. The world is so mad. And when you hear music, it speaks in all languages. If I look out there and see smiling faces, I'm ready to play. They have to stop me from playing.
Oh, that's great news. You're coming back down here. You're always a very welcome visitor, and I've got some great memories of seeing you in the past, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, thank you very much, and if they call me tomorrow, it wouldn't be too soon for me.
Thanks a lot, buddy. I appreciate your time this morning. I know it's early there for you, so I really do appreciate that, and it's an absolute honour to speak to you.
No, it's not early for me. I don't know if they told you. I've been up so long, I done finished cooking. I was born on a farm, so I gets up every morning about 4:30. If I got to cook, I cook, have my coffee and paper, and I go out, and I come back in the afternoon about 2 or 3 and go to sleep till about 7 and go to the club.
Wow, you're a better man than me. I couldn't keep those hours.
All right.
Thanks again, buddy. It's been a treat.
Thank you very much.
Take care, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.